The Maamar is the third Ani Lidodi Vdodi li, which was said in Tafshin Memvav 1985 by the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
He's the one who said that line first?
What? Ani Lidodi Vdodi li? No, King Solomon in Shlomo HaMelech in Shir HaShirim said the line first.
Beautiful line.
Yeah. If you want to know, it's chapter 6, verse 3 of Shir HaShirim. I'm not a Baki, I'm just reading it here.
Shir HaShirim is part of Navi, right?
It's not part of Navi, it's part of Sugin. Yeah, but yeah.
I started with my brother in Navi.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty true.
Yeah, L'chaim. We should all know that the king is in the field, as we're going to discuss momentarily, and that we are the kings that Hashem is looking forward to seeing. And He's crowning us. And by definition, we're crowning Him as well. L'chaim l'bracha. So just a quick background. There are many Maamorim with a headline, with a title, Ani Lidodi, throughout Hasidic thought. Starting already from the Alter Rebbe, and most of the Maamorim throughout Hasidus Chabad is founded upon the Alter Rebbe's two Maamorim of Ani Lidodi. And the themes of where everybody goes crazy over Melech Basadeh, the king is in the field, that is a novelty of the Alter Rebbe. Why is that a novelty of the Alter Rebbe? Because the Alter Rebbe asks a question, a Kabbalistic question, that we know that every single holiday, including Shabbos, has a certain mystical, spiritual revelation that the soul can tap into and go beyond its own normal, regular self.
Every Yom Tov.
Every Yom Tov and every Shabbos.
Wow.
Okay? And I'm not a mystic, I'm not a Mekubal, but let's just say that on Pesach, the attribute of Chesed is fully exposed, fully revealed. Okay? On Shavuos, the attribute of Gvura, let's say, it's not, but I'm just saying, giving an example.
Is there a list? What is?
There's a list of Sfirot, of the attributes. There's a list of what holiday is tapping into which revelation of the soul. Okay? Shabbos supersedes all of them. One of the reasons why we are more prohibitive on Shabbos than on Yom Tov is not because the rabbis wanted to drive us crazy, but because there is so much revelation on Shabbos relative to Yom Tov, it is not necessary for us to do proactive labor. I'll say that again. On Yom Tov, the fact that there is less of a revelation implies that we need to be more involved in the world. Less involved in a regular day, but more involved in Shabbos. So therefore we're allowed to carry and cook, no problem. The fact that we're allowed to carry and cook implies that the revelation is not that extreme, is not that potent compared to Shabbos. Shabbos is revelation of the soul, and by definition, the revelation of godly energy in the world is so potent and so extreme that it does not, our life, our reality does not necessitate us to be proactively involved in the world. So the 39 melachis is not because we want to drive you crazy or you're not allowed to do this, it's because we have no reasons. But the reason why you're not allowed to do something is not because you're not allowed to do it. It's because you're so tuned in, you're so aligned, your soul is so connected to godliness that there's no reason, there's no necessity to do it anymore.
So why do they make a bigger deal out of Yom Tov than Shabbos?
Because it happens less often. And from our vantage point, there's a difference between Simcha and Oineg. Oineg Shabbos, right? Oineg Shabbos and V'samachta b'chagecha. Oineg is much more tangible. Whenever you can tangibly feel something, you get more excited about it. Shabbos is much more ethereal and much more abstract. Therefore, the pleasure of Shabbos is you have to be very, very tuned in. So the revelation is much more, but our vessels are much less. Yom Tov, the revelation is much less, our vessels are able to inhabit that much more.
So each have a mile.
Of course. So the Alter Rebbe asks...
So you're saying that because there's less things, things that you can do, it means that there's deeper level of connection?
There's a deeper level of connection on Shabbos, being that there's such a deep, profound level of connection between the Neshama and Hashem revealed on Shabbos, you need to do less in the world.
Does that make it easier?
It's not about easy or hard. That's just the nature. That's the nature of your soul. The question in life is how much are we synchronized with the nature of our soul, adapting to the nature of our body. Okay, so the nature of our body says this is very annoying. Why can't I flick a light on Shabbos? Why can't I drive? Because we're so tuned into the animalistic nature and craving of the body that from Sunday till Friday afternoon, that's what we're meant to do. That's what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to keep Shabbos the whole week. Yeah. Amshanover does that for us, but not everybody. So the fact that we're not allowed to do something on Shabbos is only. Let me give a crass mashal. Okay, anybody's married? Few people married. Everybody's dating. You like women? Okay. Yeah. Good. When you're on the date, okay, most normal people would have to do more to impress and to not show off, but just, I don't know her, she doesn't know me. I want to give her the best of myself. Okay. Are you doing more? Are you doing less? Doing much more. A married couple after 30, 40 years, right? They look like they're bored with each other. Really, they're so in tune and in sync with each other. I'm thinking a non-toxic couple, a healthy couple, yeah? That manifest, revealed to us, there's nothing happening there. There's no excitement there. There's no inspiration. There's no romance. But why is there none? It's because they're so one and united. Understand? During the week, we're dating Hashem. So we have to go out to the world and we have to impress Him. So I have to go get a job, I have to make money, I have to give tzedakah, I have to put on tefillin. Why don't we put tefillin on Shabbos? Because Shabbos does not necessitate our involvement in creation as much as the weekday does. So the revelation is so deep and so extreme in terms of our connection. We've been married for thousands of years on Shabbos. Right? It's interesting. We say Yom Shekulei Shabbos. Shabbos is one day that we're married, but it feels like forever. Whereas the weekday is incrementalized into different days. And you have to be more involved in the world. Shabbos is an experience beyond time. Yeah. The fact that it's beyond time means that you're so united that you don't have to do anything to impress God. The expression of not needing to do anything to impress God, so to speak, or to fulfill His desire in the world, is that we're not allowed to do all these things.
Not the most relevant, but just an interesting question.
Yeah, we didn't start the Maamar yet. Just saying.
Why would you say that maybe that's what teenagers struggle with a lot from all the tournaments was Shabbos? Is there like a spiritual, when you say, connection behind it?
Because we don't tap into the true energy of what Shabbos is. We do tap into the do's and don'ts. That's like me telling you I got married. I only got married because my wife cooks amazing dinners. That's why I got married. So you're telling me you keep Shabbos because what? It's not, we're missing the whole entire purpose of what true einig is. We're not tapping into the true expression of what the soul is feeding off. A. B, we are naturally crass individuals. We get used to our bodily necessities, and therefore the world is much more realistic to us than our spirit, than our soul. So Hashem gives us an opportunity on Shabbos to tap into the soul and not only the body. That's very, very out of our nature. We have to work very, very hard. It says anybody who works on Erev Shabbos will eat on Shabbos. What does that mean spiritually? Anybody who works on themselves during the week in order to be able to unite with their soul on Shabbos will eventually unite with their soul on Shabbos. But you have to work during the week for it. It can't just be that I slept through the whole week, meaning spiritually, I didn't do any inner work, I didn't do any avodah, and all of a sudden a revelation comes that is called Shabbos, Neshama Yesera, the additional soul. And what am I doing? I'm treating the weekday the day of Shabbos as I am during the week. And I'm not only treating it, I'm even treating it worse because why can't everybody ask, yeah? If it's a day of rest, why can't I go play golf? That's my rest. Why can't I swim? That's my rest. Because we are not in tune with what the swimming and what the golf is of the soul. That's called davening and learning. That's the food of the soul. But in order to, like anybody's on a diet, yeah? Sugar and carbs and unhealthy food always taste much better. There's no quinoa on the table right now. Yeah, there's no kale on the table. Why not? Because the farbrengen. So what's the farbrengen? The farbrengen is that we want to attract and have an attachment to our animal soul. The godly soul is already here. It's the animal soul that we need to steer in. So we're going to give him unhealthy food that's going to actually get him to the table. So Shabbos happens to be that we have a chulent and we have a nice Friday night dinner and all that. But that's only the chitzonius. That's only the exterior.
You say on Shabbos the food you eat is like...
Is elokus. But it's elokus relative to how tuned in I am to godliness. If I'm not tuned into godliness, if I'm not elevating my sensitivity, so what's going to happen if I'm only eating quinoa and kale, right? I'm going to throw up. I just want candy. But if a person's refined themselves and refined their palate enough, what's going to happen? The opposite. They can only eat quinoa and kale, and the moment that they have even one thing of candy, they're going to throw up. Because they have accustomed that there's an alignment between body and soul. So we have to work on that. Fine. Why are we saying all this? Because the Alter Rebbe hits us with a bomb based on the Arizal. The Arizal teaches us that the month of Elul, from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Rosh Hashanah, is not only chesed, is not only gvura, is not only a certain aspect of godly revelation and of the spheros. Rather, it's the expression of God's 13 attributes of mercy, Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim, which supersedes and is totally beyond all of the spheros, all of the revelations that is usually manifest. And if that's the case, the Alter Rebbe asks, if the Arizal is teaching us this, then L'choira, seemingly it should be a Yom Tov every single day. And it should be even more of a Yom Tov than a regular Yom Tov, because a regular Yom Tov is only one facet, one aspect of a spiritual revelation. This is literally the reverting back to the innocence of the soul pre-sin. That's what the revelation is. The whole entire year, there's the idea of Torah and mitzvahs has measurements. It's funny also. We say, what do we call the spheros? Midos, right? Everything has midos. These are the 13 Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim, right? But at the end of the day, it's a measurement beyond measurement. The whole Torah and mitzvahs is based on measurements. If I did this, then it's reciprocating that way. The tefillin has to be a certain size. The tzitzis has to be a certain size. So there's schar and oynish. There's a system. Elul, ani Lidodi, Vdodi li, is circumventing the whole system.
What is circumventing?
Skipping over the whole entire system to the point that Hashem is looking at us like a baby. A baby is sinning by crying at night, 3 a.m. when his parents are on 2 hours of sleep. No, this is the nature of a baby. We revert back to our babiness of the soul, the innocence of the soul, and this is the possibility of how Moshe Rabbeinu was able to bring about the 13 attributes of mercy that happened on Rosh Chodesh Elul, that Hashem's able to say, Hashem kel rachem v'chanan, that whenever there's a problem, there's an issue, there's a spiritual blemish or wound, it is totally filled up. The gap is totally filled up because of these 13 attributes. And for that alone, the Arizal says this is a Yom Tov every single day. Who does that? Who reveals that? The Sfardim. The Sfardim initiate this. The Alter Rebbe says this. The Sfardim initiate this by saying slichot. What's slichot? I did something, and I'm not getting punished for the something that I did. I should be punished, but I'm not. Why? Because I'm connecting to a realm of godliness beyond logic. Logic says that you did something, and the repercussion of that deed should be kach v'kach. 13 attributes of mercy, Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim says that you're connecting to a place pre-sin. The neshama is totally clean and clear. And for this, it should be a Yom Tov every single day. And a Yom Tov that is even greater than a regular holiday. So this is the Alter Rebbe's question. Based on this premise, why aren't we singing and dancing every day? Why isn't it Yom Tov every single day? So the Alter Rebbe answers this because the king is in the field. The mashal is HaMelech Basar. The Alter Rebbe says is because this is a unique revelation that is not that usually we say what is Shabbos, what is Yom Tov. That's us catapulted into the palace of the king. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, catapulted into the palace of the king. In Elul, it's the king coming to the field. The king is not wearing his regal garments; he's wearing jeans just like me and you. It says that the mashal, the Alter Rebbe goes very deep into it, is that he's coming back from his surveillancing his provinces, and he comes back with an entourage. But at the end of the day, after a long trip, the king doesn't look or appear in his regal form. He didn't take the shower yet. He's still coming back. But where does he visit? The king understands that as important as the doctors and the lawyers are, the only way that the doctors and the lawyers eat is because of the farmers. So he goes to visit once a year those who are feeding the whole entire ecosystem of the kingdom. and he goes to visit the farmers, and the farmers don't really understand or know who the king is. They lack a sense of intimacy. They're not like the ministers and the doctors and the lawyers and the big, fancy, fine-schmecking people. It's the simple people that hear that the king is there, and all they want to do is just see the king's face, because they haven't seen it. They're not privy to it. And it says that the king enables them, allows them to be introduced to his face, to experience his countenance, but his countenance is digestible in a way that every single simpleton and simple person can experience the king. And this is how the Alter Rebbe explains the revelation of what the Arizal is saying during Elul. Yes, it is an extreme revelation. The king is available, the king is accessible, like Yom Tov, like Shabbos. However, there's one caveat, is that the king is now in the field. He's now in imagine I'm telling you that Shabbos is now on Monday. Okay, but it's not that Monday is now subsumed by Shabbos. Shabbos is now integrated into the vessels of Monday, into the vessels of Tuesday. And the king does this in order to inspire us and motivate us and awaken us that we should then tune in to the energy of what will occur on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur.
Isn't that just like the year? Like he goes into the year, he goes into the mundane?
No, seemingly there's still a distance. There's still a distance in the remaining of the year. Elul is unique is that he is accessible in the mundane to then push us into the holy, as a preparation for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Meaning to say, our job is to bring that revelation the rest of the year, but it's not necessarily that the king is here the whole entire time. What's unique about Elul is that you have a Yom Tov energy the whole entire time in the mundane, in the normal. It's the super normal, the super rational in the normal.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do throughout the year, or what?
It is what we're supposed to do. It is what we're supposed to do, but it's not that's not the spiritual revelation of what Hashem is giving us throughout the year. It's much more challenging. It's much more difficult. We're dealing more with our own selves.
Isn't he doing that with the Yom Tov?
Yeah, sprinkled, but it's not a full 30 days. Yeah, clear. Stop here. Okay, let's get a few ideas in from the Rebbe himself. Ani Lidodi Vdodi li Rashi Tevis Elul. A quote from Shir Hashirim which says, "I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me." This is an acronym for Elul. And the Alter explains Tafshin Memvav. Ani Lidodi Tafshin Memvav. I put the page. Yeah. The Alter explains the Elul Mascha b'chenes Ani Lidodi dehainu b'chenes Isurus del Sata. What's the power of Elul? The power of Elul is Ani Lidodi. Me, the Jew, the soul, is to my beloved, is to Hashem. That we are meant to awaken. It's called an awakening from below. We're not mystified by some revelation that is too beyond us. Rather, the revelation is within our vessels, and that motivates us and awakens us to want to connect to Hashem. Ad Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippurim, to the point until we reach Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. That in the time of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, there's a drawing forth of godly revelation from above to below in a way of manifestation. The Zeu Ani Lidodi, that's the meaning of Ani Lidodi, I am to my beloved. When is Vdodi li happening? When is my beloved to me? That's called Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. But the only way that Vdodi li can be real to me, can be tangible to me, is if I made a vessel. And the vessel is called Ani Lidodi. That I had to go out to the field. I had to make the effort to actually experience that godly revelation in my own mundane affairs.
Vdodi li is Hashem is to me?
Yeah.
I was remember this morning I asked the question. Ani sounds like Hashem, the one is Hashem. In Lidodi sounds beloved like multiple people. That's why I was getting confused.
Ani Lidodi, I am, meaning the soul is speaking about my connection to God, and I'm initiating my own awakening and my own inspiration. If I do that properly and I make the vessels that I'm meant to do in my personal life, taking the initiative for my own self, Vdodi li. The result will be that my beloved is to me. The expression of my beloved being to me is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. However, notwithstanding that the energy personified in Elul is the idea of me taking initiative, me inspiring myself. At the end of the day, everything comes from Hashem, even your own personal revelation, even your own personal initiative, even your own personal awakening. Because the only reason why I'm actually even awakened is because there's a party. Because the king is in the field. If the king wasn't in the field, I'd be regular. I'd be still in my mundane thing. But something's awakening me. It's not the full awakening that I will experience Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. That's the idea of the king taking the peasant into the palace. And that's like, whoa, I've never witnessed this before. That in the Alter Rebbe explains that that's why the month of Elul is the propitious time with the 13 attributes of mercy. This is the reciprocal effect that the arousal, the awakening from above, will then initiate the awakening from below. The Alter Rebbe explains this idea, as we just explained, of this immense godly revelation, and how that's adaptable, and how that is connecting to the mundane, to the regular person, a person that didn't set up his vessels yet for this immense revelation. He says this is like a king coming back from a trip and going to the field, the outskirts of the town first before the metropolis. And at that time, he gives permission. Not only does he give permission, he enables, he encourages. Anybody who wants to receive his countenance. And not only is he accepting everybody equally, but he's doing it with a smile, with a radiant face and a shining, happy countenance. And then he goes back to the city, and he has an entourage following him. What's his entourage? What? Who's the entourage? You and I, in addition to the entourage that was following him before. So mystically speaking, that's the malachim, that's the neshamas, that's mamish, all. Yeah, but now you're inspired. Before you weren't rashayin or yecholim, you weren't permitted or able to enter into the palace. But now you got to know the king. You made Kalim for immense revelation. He says, "Come with me. Guess where I'm going? I want you to come with me." I rub shoulders with him. Yeah.
So that means that you're the entourage, but you're also...
You become the entourage. The peasant becomes the entourage.
Wow.
The simpleton becomes the entourage.
We're also the farmer?
We are the farmer. We are the farmer. We're the feeders of all of Hishtalshalos.
So who are like these other people?
In the Nimshal, that's the Malachim, that's the Neshamas, that's the higher caliber souls that are usually used to being with Hashem.
And like the Neshamas, you mean by like, are you Neshama Yisera, or you mean like...
No, but there's Neshamas beyond us. There's Neshamas like higher than Gufim that never came to this world.
Really?
Yeah, Malachim, Neshamas, sure.
I guess you have to explain that to me another time.
That's
I don't know what that means. Like the shamas that are not us, but are like we have a neshama, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I was understanding what you're saying, is that we have a neshama, right?
There are
neshamas that never were put into this
world. They were never put into this world.
Like, what would that make? Like that's.
What does that look like?
Like what does that make? That like then that's is it?
Is it considered a neshama?
How could it be a neshama?
A neshama is not limited to a body. It's a good discussion. It's not definitely not for now. But I'm saying a neshama is not. And God forbid an individual passes away. Okay, that neshama then has a choice. Most of the times, what Kabbalah explains to us, based on the Arizal and Shar HaGilgulim, is it needs to be megalgel. It needs to then be recycled into another body.
Or maybe not. Right?
Possibly not. So I'm saying there are possibilities, rare possibilities, that the neshama completed its tikkun, and now it is, like we say in the Gemara. In Gemara, it's not even mysticism. That Gan Eden. Who's in Gan Eden? Malachim or neshamas? Neshama goes to Gan Eden, right?
So you're saying it's the neshamas which have already done their
one or the other. One or the other. Meaning,
you say there could be neshamas that Hashem created that never were on this world.
Correct.
Like how would that
what does that look like?
Yeah, like what is that? Like
that's a neshama waiting to come down to this world, or
still waiting to come down.
Either waiting to come down, or Hashem has a different job for that neshama of Lemaila.
I thought like the whole point of us is that in a Hashem relationship to Hashem is to build a level of shleimus, that we have to go through trials and tribulations in a certain way or whatever, in order to create a certain level of shleimus within ourselves to connect to Hashem, right?
That's one dimension. That's not the full dimension. There are various dimensions in which we say, let's say again, what a neshama that goes through this world and he reaches Gan Eden, right?
Yeah.
There are, I imagine, I don't know this for fact because I didn't see Gan Eden yet, but I imagine that there are neshamas right now in Gan Eden that are hanging out in Gan Eden. They're not coming back to this world.
I'm just tripping on the part that there are neshamas that never were a part of this world or never going to be a part of this world, but they're still neshamas. I thought the whole point of neshama.
I'm going to give you a very, very starke Chabad agenda.
Yeah.
It says about the Alter Rebbe that he was a neshama chadasha. The Alter Rebbe's soul never entered into a body before his own body. The Baal Shem Tov said that about him. The Baal Shem Tov did. The Baal Shem Tov was revealed his own personal mission and where his neshama came from by Eliyahu Hanavi's teacher. You know what Eliyahu Hanavi is?
Yeah.
Okay. So Eliyahu Hanavi has a teacher. His name was Achia Hashiloini. Achia from the location of Shiloh.
Shiloh.
Yeah? Yeah, Shiloh. Yeah. So Achia Shiloh. If you learn Rambam, the Rambam enumerates 40 generations from Moshe Rabbeinu until who? Rav and Shmuel? More? Rav Ashi. Hi Menachem Mendel. Yeah. So in those 40 generations, we have Moshe, Yeshua, who is it? Kainim, Shmuel, Hanavi, right? Shmuel, give to Shaul, David, right? So in that, there's Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi taught Elisha. Who was before Eliyahu Hanavi? Achia. Achia Shiloini re-came to the world to teach the Baal Shem Tov Chassidus. Okay, the revelation of Chassidus, it says that Eliyahu Hanavi is the master of Kabbalah. He came to teach Reb Shimon Bar Yochai Kabbalah. Right? Reb Shimon Bar Yochai didn't write the Zohar. He compiled the Zohar based on other people's perceptions. But Eliyahu Hanavi has the mastery over Soid. We know that there's four dimensions to Torah interpretation. In Hebrew we call it Pardes, right? Gemara and Chagiga discusses this a lot, right? We say Pshat, Remesh, Drush, Soid. Okay? So there are different, there's Pashtanim, right? Rashi is a Pashtan, right? Yeah. You have the Alshich is a Darshan. Yeah, you have different people in throughout Jewish history that are masters over a segment of Torah. Okay? So Soid, the Arizal has a mastery over Soid. But who teaches Soid is Eliyahu Hanavi, in particular to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the Arizal, etc. Achia Shiloini, who is Eliyahu Hanavi's teacher, is the one who facilitates the connection and revelation of Chassidus. Which Chassidus is in a sense superseding even Kabbalah. So you needed somebody who was the master of the master to come teach Chassidus. So Baal Shem Tov, it was not sufficient for Eliyahu Hanavi to come to the world to teach him. He needed the master of Eliyahu Hanavi. So who is that? Achia Shiloini. Achia Shiloini taught the Baal Shem Tov where his neshama came from, and the Baal Shem Tov told the Magid of Mezrich to teach the Alter Rebbe where his neshama came from, and his neshama never came to this world. Just to give some context, what that means practically, I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade.
I mean, I guess yeah.
But I'm saying, practically speaking, a person, an individual passes away, his neshama goes to Gan Eden. So here, in this context, the entourage is that there is a certain godly revelation in this world, and there are those souls who are privy to that godly revelation.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I guess, like, what I was just saying is that the only thing that, like, doesn't kind of make sense, and maybe it's not supposed to make sense, because it's fine, but it's just that Hashem creates neshamas that never, ever.
Yeah, so your question is a very valid question. What's their purpose then?
Yeah, like, why are they in neshama? Maybe they should do something else.
Right.
I mean, I thought the whole purpose of a neshama was to come to this world.
Right.
To
Good. A good shaila.
Are there neshamas that the purpose of them is only to come down after Mashiach comes? Like something, because seemingly we're at the end.
I don't know. This is Shar HaGilgulim stuff, and these are questions in Yiddishkeit that for sure are there. I mean, there's a lot of things. It says Mashiach can't come until every single neshama has left the trove of neshamas lamaila and come into a body. It's one of the conditions of Mashiach. So you have to have a lot of babies, basically. Right. And is it speaking about the first part of Geula, or is it Tchias HaMesim? Because it then says that a woman is able to give birth to 6 children at one time without any gestation process after Mashiach comes. But it's before Tchias HaMesim. It's a complex subject. The Rebbe has many letters on this. Tchias HaMesim, who are you going to marry? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean,
who do you remarry? It's interesting, yeah?
If you had a previous neshama,
If you had a previous body. What neshama? If it's neshamas begufim, tchias hamesim is neshamas begufim, right? Mechaya mesim b'mam, right? That we say it every day. If it's tchias hamesim and neshamas begufim, who's getting married to each other?
Yeah.
Who's reconnecting to which guf? But it's complex. Weiter. It's a discussion unto its own.
I actually heard a story about
Shua. About?
The Shua, that this koil is named after in that regard.
Okay.
So Yaniv and Simi. So basically, just for context, Shua Polansky, right, was a very close friend of Eli's who unfortunately passed away suddenly at the age of like 30 or something, and he has like kids and everything. So then, a few years later, his wife remarried Yaniv Hoffman. So Yaniv and Simi were sitting at Rabbi Korn's table, and they were having this exact question. After Tchias Mason, who's Simi going to be married to? Is she going to be married to me or is she going to be married to Shua?
That's a heavy conversation.
And one of the fathers were there, either Simi or Yaniv's dad, who aren't necessarily so from, but they were like, they know stuff, but they're not so from. And like, there was this whole conversation, this whole back and forth in Shakavataya, and then at the end, the father said, who again is not so like learned in Torah and everything, but he said, one thing's for sure, when Mashiach comes, he'll figure it out for us.
He'll answer the shilas.
Yeah.
Is it possible also that like the neshama split into different parts or no?
Absolutely.
So that could also be
Yes. It says according to Kabbalah, the reason why the morning period is divided is because there are various compartments of the soul that are dissipating from the body at various stages. So the most extreme is the first 3 days, not even Shiva.
Yeah.
You have 3 days, 7 days, Shloishim, 11 months, 12 months. The reason why you have those, those signs of how to mourn, when to mourn, what to mourn, and the extreme of it is because those are times in which the various compartments of the neshama is shedding itself of the body. Yeah, 100%.
Also, the neshama could have different itzaitzos. One, because it says
Right.
600,000 neshamas, so
Right.
there's more Jews.
Right.
So the neshama splits down with the different people.
This also.
That could also be an answer to the possibility that there's certain neshamas that are
a compartment or dimension of the neshama. Yeah. Again, this is also a complex subject in terms of soulmates.
Yeah.
Right? And you have different variations, different frequencies of who you connect to. In Maisa, in Dibur, in Machshava, in Nefesh, in Ruach, in Neshama, in Chai Yechida, you have different compartments of the soul, and people meet people, right? And I don't know who's who, but at the end of the day, a person feels like, we connect so well on an emotional level, but intellectually she's not appealing to me. I'm not saying she could be or is not, but at the end of the day, there is room to say, definitely based on Kabbalistic literature. And this was the idea of the story between David and Bathsheba, David Abigail, David and his whole entourage of women were particularly based on the various facets of his soul and who he was connecting to at that time. But again, you have to be on the level of a tzaddik to not be so judgmental. Yeah. L'chaim. So now we're saying, we're coming back over he's going back to the palace, he's going back to the city, and he has a whole crew after him. Once he enters into the palace, they're only permitted with permission. And even of those who are permitted with permission are only the choices of the nation and the unique individuals. So the question is, did we transform into the unique individual by us communing and communicating with the king when he was in the field? Did we make enough of an impact? And we continue, that this is the power of Elul, is that at the end of the day, Hashem, the king, when he's in the field, gives permission and ability for anybody who's anybody, sinner or tzaddik, it doesn't matter. As we're going to continue in the Maamorim, if we ever get to it, that the mechitzas, the divisions in ourselves are eliminated, and by definition, the definitions of all of reality are eliminated at this time.
Wow.
Omevar, and we explained why. Why are the divisions eliminated, because the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim is Hu Inin Ya'er Hashem Panav Elecha. Hashem's face, Hashem's countenance is illuminating to you. But what part or facet of Hashem's face is being illuminated to you is the 13 attributes of mercy that does not care or pays no attention to the sin, to the vice, to the negativity. The Yeshloim, and therefore, so too, right now, it doesn't matter the simple peasant farmer, whatever he was doing last night. At the end of the day, what is Hashem looking at? You're feeding the nation. You're feeding the nation. You're nourishing the malachim. You're nourishing the neshamas. A Jew's deed and a Jew's action and a Jew's mitzvah in this physical world is the sustenance and the nourishment of all of Ishtalshalus, of all of the malachim, of all of Gan Eden, of everything. When do they get credit for that? When they get the hug, the pat on the back from the king himself? That's Elul. And because of the 13 attributes of mercy, that is totally erasing any of the divisions in our own personality, how much more so the divisions are erased in the higher realms as well. And that's the reason why the king accepts and greets everybody with a shining countenance and with a smiling face. Because it's not that I don't see your sin, it's that I can't see your sin. I'm not in a realm of logic or rationale to deal with what you did to me or what you hurt me. Imagine you'll say, at the end of the day, again, I'm not saying this about every relationship, but people go through difficulties and challenges, in particular spouses. But there's something about our anniversary that wherever we were arguing and whatever we were dealing with last night, last week, last month, the division is eliminated because the neshama comes out. And I'm reminded that 12, 13, 15, 20 years ago, how one we were and how one we really are. And that allows me to look past all of the things, all of the challenges, all of the disputes that I actually have with you. And that's what we're meant to look at ourselves right now in terms of God. And that's what Hashem is looking at us in terms of us. To the point that right now we have accessibility. It's our anniversary the whole month. And when it's our anniversary, we have accessibility to ask and request for Hashem anything we want, because He's totally blind to any of our negativity. He can only see our beauty. He can only see our peasantness, but the mile of our peasantness, which is what? Our simplicity, our innocence. Okay, as the Alter Rebbe elucidates in his Sefer Likutei Torah. So now, this is the paragraph that you see now, the Rebbe adding his novelty in terms of Hasidus Chabad philosophy. Meaning to say, what we've discussed until now is the novelty of the Alter Rebbe and what he's contributed to the streams of Kabbalah, and explaining what it practically means, Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, what it practically means that the revelation is higher than a Yom Tov and a Shabbos, and how we can actually assimilate that in our systems. The Rebbe is going to take it to a further step. The Rebbe is giving us an insight into the history of the Sefer called Likutei Torah. Can you just grab a Sefer Likutei Torah just so our guests are aware of what this magnum opus is? Thank you. Here's a Likutei Torah. It's massive, okay? It's really, really a lot. And this happens to be the page that the Alter Rebbe wrote Ani Lidodi, Vdodi, the Maamar on, is on page Lamed Beis. And the Rebbe in another Maamar comments that this is the lave of the whole Likutei Torah. This is literally the heart, the kishkas of the whole Likutei Torah, and what is the content, the theme of this Maamar, just like the heart is to the body, the essence of the body, this is literally the essence of the whole Likutei Torah. It's the whole thing. So it's not stam. It's not just another Maamar. It's a Maamar that... Correct. So there's a lot here. And in this Maamar, this is where the Alter Rebbe says the king is in the field. That's the famous thing. So now, here's a few questions without looking inside. The Tzemach Tzedek is the one that compiled the Maamorim. The Alter Rebbe spoke the Maamorim. That's what a Maamar means, a dissertation, a speaking dissertation, in which you have a lot of compilers of that dissertation writing it down and memorizing it, and then writing it down, and then being edited by the Rebbeim. The Tzemach Tzedek, out of over 2,000 Maamorim, selected particular Maamorim to make the Likutei Torah. So you have much, much, much more than this from the Alter Rebbe, which is insane. In the compiling of the Tzemach Tzedek of the Likutei Torah, Matzinu davar pella, the Rebbe says. We find something wondrous, something perplexing. Shebedrushim eile lo yeshna kepel koiseres b'fnei asmei drushim le'el. In these Maamorim, it does not have its own headline or categorization, unlike other things. So you have here, Drushim le'yom HaKippurim, Drushim le'Rosh Hashanah. Okay, you'll have soon Drushim le'Sukkos. You'll have in another place. Well, he doesn't have Pesach, but anyway, there should be specific Maamorim that have to do with Elul. And the Rebbe is saying that the Tzemach Tzedek negated that headline. That means to say that the Maamorim of Elul are included in Parshas Re'eh. Okay? So logic would have dictated that there's Parshas Re'eh, and then Drushim le'Elul, and then Parshas Shoftim, and then Kiseitz and Kitzavoi, and then Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, etc. It has its own thing. They're included in the Maamorim of Parshas Re'eh. Again, I'm giving you a very technical, the Rebbe is a very, very technical thing. And with this, you'll see the immense hashkacha pratis in everything. And by the way, there are various tzaddikim throughout Jewish history that mamish are nuanced to why the content or theme of a particular page of Gemara is on that page of Gemara. There's such a hashkacha pratis. And it's funny, because as we know, the Vilna Shas and its compilation, from what I understand, was created by Goyim. And even that, the tzaddikim say that the fact that it is the way it is implies that there's hashkacha pratis there. And there are various places. I'll just give you, for example, just from the top of my head. Shabbos, Daf, Lamed Gimel. Anybody familiar?
Yeah.
No? What's it speaking about?
Exactly.
I
learned Shabbos.
Shabbos, Daf, Lamed Gimel. Anybody? It's a very simple conclusion, my friends. Say the word Lamed Gimel together.
Lag.
Rashbi, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Eliezer in the cave. That's Shabbos Lamed Gimel. It says in Zohar that the students of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai called him Shabbos. Shabbos Daf Lamed Gimel is a euphemism for Rashbi Lag Ba'omer. Okay, that's just mamish. That's what from what I know. There are many, many more.
Wait, so what?
In the Zohar.
Shabbos is what? Is a
Masechta Shabbos, Daf Lamed Gimel. In the Zohar, the students of the Rashbi made an accolade for the Rashbi, and they said he is Shabbos. The energy of Shabbos, the holiness of Shabbos, is the Rashbi.
Oh, it didn't stand for anything. It was just
No. It's not like Shabbos. Yeah. Oh, you're thinking Shabbos is Shimon Bar. I don't know. No, it could be on another thing. But no, the students of Shimon Bar in Zohar called the Rashbi. I mean, they call him another thing, which is even more extreme. They call him the face of God. Man pnei Odin Dar Rashbi. That's another whole thing to think about. But at the end of the day, they called him Shabbos. Why they call him Shabbos? And by the way, we have this in our Zmiros. Bar Yochai Nimshach L'Asrecha. The Sfardim say it every single Shabbos. Many Ashkenazim also. Bar Yochai Nimshach L'Asrecha Shem and Sasim Mechaverecha. Right? This is said when? Not only on Lag Ba'omer, the Ashkenazim say Lag Ba'omer because they get excited. The Sfardim say it every single Shabbos. Why? Because Kabbalistically, the energy of Rashbi is so holy, it's so Kadosh, that just like there's Shabbos Kodesh, he is Shabbos Kodesh. So on Shabbos, Daf Lamed Gimel is the idea of Rashbi and Lag Ba'omer. That's just one example. Right. So we're saying that the fact that the Tzemach Tzedek did not place this Maamer, Ani Lidodi, Vdodi, in its own Elul Maamorim, and specifically placed it in Parshas Re'eh, is something perplexing. A. B. V'tzarich bir hakashet d'drushi Elul in Parshas Re'eh, that we have to understand that there must be an association between Elul and Parshas Re'eh. V'kam tzarich lahavin b'ashel lo yinitbus v'l'koteter drushim l'Parshas Shoftim. Number 2, you'll have every single parsha, all 52, 53 parshas of the Torah in this Likutei Torah, Breishis, Noach, Lech Vayir, etc., except one, Parsha Shoftim. We'll look and we'll see Re'eh. There's no Drushim that there's Re'eh, and then Kiseitze, and then Kisavoy, and then there's no Vayelech. Also,
I came last week. I was so confused.
Yeah. I taught Ani Lidodi. I taught Ani Lidodi. Yeah. So now we're saying, why is there no Parsha Shoftim? Even though you have many Maamorim of the Alter Rebbe, look over there, on Parsha Shoftim, in other Sfarim. But there's something interesting that the Tzemach Tzedek specifically negated any Maamorim of Parsha Shoftim. There's none. There's nothing. Ukenitpas. Gambar Torah Tzemach Tzedek. Yeah, the son of the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, Rav Dov Ber, the son-in-law of the Mittler Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek. Many of their Maamorim that have to do with Parsha Shoftim are based on other Maamorim of the Alter Rebbe in other places. And yet they negated any headline, any title, any categorization of anything Parsha Shoftim. We also have to understand. So again, number one is, why is there no Elul individually? Number two, why is Elul specifically in Re'eh? Number three, why is there no Parsha Shoftim? Number four, the fact that Parsha Shoftim lands usually around the time of Rosh Chodesh Elul, yeah, like we had this past week, yeah. Last week was Shoftim. When was Rosh Chodesh Elul? Thursday night, Friday, right? Wednesday, Thursday night, Friday. There has to be some shaykhis between Elul, especially Rosh Chodesh Elul and Shoftim, and yet we're not learning anything. And also to note that this Maamer Ani Lidodi is specifically on page 32. So now the Rebbe answers the fifth question straight up. And the Rebbe says, we could possibly say, and we know for a Rebbe, for a Chassid, when a Rebbe says B'derech Efshar, that's fact. Right? The Rebbe is saying we can postulate, right? We can postulate, it may be, but by a maybe of a Rebbe is a absolute by a Chassid, yeah.
A little flex,
No.
say about maybe. My grandfather came by the Rebbe many times from Florida, and one time he told my grandfather, Mistam and Mirzani Kervin. Mistam were related. And when he went back, he asked Rabbi Shapiro, was a chayzer by the Rebbe, and he says, what does that mean? What am I meant to make of it? So he said, if the Rebbe says Mistame, you could...
it's absolute.
And they did not Rebbe.
No, the Chassidim, when Rav Noam Elimelech, everybody familiar with Noam Elimelech, the brother of Rab Zusha, Rav Noam Elimelech of Lizhensk, when he would go do Tashlich, there were Chassidim who would jump into the ocean, into the river where he was doing Tashlich afterwards. And other Chassidim were seeing this and like, what are you doing? He says that now there's an opportunity that the sins of a tzaddik is better than my mitzvahs. So I'm going to chap a rein. Let me swim and let me chap, right? He's throwing away his chatayim. What's a chait of a Rebbe? His mom is like, he learned the whole shas, but like didn't do it with... I want that. So the same thing. A maybe of a Rebbe becomes an absolute by a chassid. What... The number 32 has a unique expression. As it is explained elsewhere. Where do we learn this? We know that the Alter Rebbe established the chapter 32 of Tanya, and called it the Leyv Shebetanya. And what is the theme of the 32nd chapter of Tanya? It explains the power of loving your fellow like you love yourself. Why is chapter 32 of Tanya's theme discussing Avas Yisrael? Is because the Alter Rebbe wants to teach us that the whole essence, the whole heart of Yiddishkeit is Avas Yisrael. There is no vibration, there is no movement, there is no energy that is energizing your Yiddishkeit unless if you're missing the whole heart of Yiddishkeit. What's the heart of Yiddishkeit? Avas Yisrael. So the Alter Rebbe says, what am I going to make the 32nd chapter of Tanya, the Leyv of Tanya? Avas Yisrael, which is the Leyv of the whole Yiddishkeit.
But I know the Lidodi doesn't talk about Avas Yisrael. Seemingly.
As our sages say, right? Rabbi Akiva says, this is the great principle of Torah. If you can apply this idea from Tanya chapter 32 as discussing the essence, the Leyv of all Yiddishkeit, we can apply this that the fact that the Tzemach Tzedek organized that for the printing press, that this should be the Maamar printed on the 32nd page of Likutei Torah. That this is the heart of the whole Likutei Torah of Parshas Dvarim. And even if you'll say that this Maamar was printed on the 32nd page afterwards, perhaps it's possible to say being that this is a Sefer in Torah, like we were speaking about before, especially based on what the Baal Shem Tov teaches us. That what does the Baal Shem Tov teach us? That every single aspect of life that you see and you hear is a lesson of Avodas Hashem. Even the page of Torah can teach you a lesson of Avodas Hashem. That you can learn a lesson and an instruction in a person's divine service, even from these seemingly trivial things.
So from Ani Lidodi, we can learn about Ahavas Yisrael.
From the fact that Ani Lidodi is printed on the 32nd page, it implies that there's some connection between this being the essence and the heart of the whole Likutei Torah, and hopefully we'll connect it to Ahavas Yisrael. Yeah? Might have, right there. Continue. Right? Might have. We're not going to answer anything, huh? We only have 10 more pages.
Continue this year. Next week.
Happy
Thursday night?
Shabbos morning.
Yeah.
Shabbos morning.
Why don't we start right away? Because my brother's going to pick me up in a minute.
What?
Why don't we start right away? Because my brother's going to pick me up
Might
in a
have.
minute.